My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This episode is brought to you by PetSmart. Stop by for Yappy Hour with your pet at PetSmart. Save $5 on walk-in grooming services like nail trims, ear cleaning, brushing, and more. No appointment needed every weekday from 2 to 6 p.m. And while you're there, Yappy Hour includes exclusive in-store deals, like 25% off pet toys. Visit services.petsmart.com/grooming to learn more.
Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast. The NBA playoffs are here, and Michelob Ultra is getting you closer to the game than ever with courtside seats and more. Enter now at MichelobUltra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Superior Access Courtside 2024 to 2025 sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Ends on July 1st, 2025. Multiple entry periods. Visit MichelobUltra.com/superior access/courtside for free entry deadlines, and official rules. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
Back with another episode of Keeping Current with Kansas City. This is Seth Bell from the KC Soccer Journal. With me, I have Carrie Robinson from the KC Soccer Journal and off to see the Wizards, and I don't know what all she does. She also makes some kind of interesting thing that she has to strain while she's waiting for Daniel to show up, but it's a long story. And Daniel Sperry, who's also here.
What's happening? What are you straining, Carrie?
I was making raspberry coffee syrup because I want a white chocolate and raspberry latte tomorrow when I have to wake up at 5 a.m. and go to Lacine, Kansas at 6 a.m.
We're making you stay up later now in order for you to do this, so you can record this pod and then do that.
Thank you, Sperry.
You're welcome.
I think this will be a normal segment on this pod, is that we just blame Sperry for being late.
Sure, that's fair.
All right, Daniel, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Got to check in with family. Both daughters doing good.
Both daughters doing good. We're working on both daughters getting to sleep. This one is not, as you may or may not be able to see, she's wide awake right now. Of course, those of you listening to this cannot see that the sweet infant is wide awake, but the infant is wide awake. The other one is not, and she was the one that sometimes is the hard one to get to sleep. So,
yeah, well, sometimes the adults are too.
Yeah, that's for sure. But anyways, everybody's going good.
All right. Soccer stuff. KC Current 1-0 win in Orlando. Top of the table, several points clear, but lots of issues coming out of that game. Just overall, how do you think the Current performed?
I think they were fine. I mean, it was, you go into Orlando, you go into this game that, basically was the championship to an extent last year. I think they played well. Kayla Sharples definitely upped her game. She probably had her worst game in a Current jersey the last time we played Orlando in those semifinals, and she definitely made up for it in this game. Granted, there's less stakes, but it was good defensive overall.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that the Current chose to change up who they were for this game. That Like they felt like they so desperately needed to get the result there, to do that. And like it's big for them to create separation in the table. I think that just kind of surprised me. Like they don't, the current and Vlaco haven't always been one to quote unquote abandon who they are. Now they were on the front foot until they got the goal. They felt like they could get the win with one goal. They did. And I think the defense was showing that they could do that. But they really put themselves under a whole lot of pressure towards the end of that game. Impressive to see that they bent and did not break, like the old Kansas City Chiefs defensive mantra: bend, don't break. We're okay with getting, you can get down there, but as long as we hold you to a field goal or maybe get you to sack you and push you out of field goal range and do all this stuff. And that just kind of felt how the current played, was like, we can get you, you can come into our final third all you want, but you're not going to get anything of substance or a second or third touch on the ball in the box. And I thought that was a good game plan to close it out. But the Current were the better team through the first half of the game. I thought they created better, were doing better things. Just the final passes or the final moments weren't as precise. But a win's a win. You take the 3 points this early in the season and you get out of there.
Yeah, I think like you said, the Current basically controlled the game, even though the Pride held possession. They ended up with a little bit more XG, but it was spread out and not the
Yeah.
most dangerous chances. And yeah, Kayla Sharples, great game.
Yeah. I also have to say, like, I actually was really impressed with Ellie Wheeler. She lost her starting spot to Haley Mace the last couple of games. And all of a sudden, she comes back in a moment where they really need her. And she put an absolute shift, holding down that flank. I think they even tried to like switch Banda out there after Banda got swallowed up in the first half by the black hole that is Alana Cook, Kayla Sharples, and Haley Mace playing center back together. And they put her out wide and Ellie, to try and maybe pin the wing back a little bit and pin Ellie back. And it didn't really affect anything at all until they needed to move Banda centrally again to try and get the goal, after they had conceded. So again, like, Ellie Wheeler was a surprise. I wouldn't say a surprise standout for me, but I thought she really excelled and embraced that role, that she was given, because it was a very tireless role. It was, you were going to run back and forth for 90 minutes up and down the wing. And they all looked gassed after that. I would be curious, like, to find out from their like medical staff, like what the physical output for running for a lot of those players was, because that was a end to end, but not in the exciting end to end way, if that makes sense.
The exciting end-to-end
The
way.
the stretched end to end way. How about that? We'll say
The,
that.
the
I thought it
tired
was
end to
exciting.
end.
It was the very gassed end to end.
Yeah, no, I agree. Willard did really well. I mean, a lot of the Current played really well in basically shutting down Orlando in Orlando. That's not usually easy to do.
Well,
They got the separation, but it did come with a price. 3 players injured in that game. Alana Cook went out. That was a non-contact injury, more or less. So,
mhm.
I mean, she wasn't like tackled. It was they were fighting for the ball. She took an awkward step. She goes down, and she is considered a long-term injury. They didn't call it a season-ending injury, but we'll see what that ends up being. Dabinia goes down. She's considered a fairly long injury, however Vlaco phrased it yesterday, after the summer.
Yeah.
And Timwa went down, and we really still don't have any true information on her. But it
Yep.
seemed like that was not good either.
No.
3 very key players to this team.
Extremely key players, and Deb was in the middle of a MVP campaign,
Yep.
and to go down like that is sad. I don't know how that tackle didn't get more than I don't know how there wasn't any legitimate yellow cards handed out, in that game. I thought Orlando, was extremely physical to the point where it was endangering player safety, and the ref had no control or care about it, and allowed an all-out brawl to happen. And I think that jeopardized player safety in that game. And so um, it's disappointing that the team comes out with multiple injuries like that, especially the challenge on Debinha is bad. Luckily, her name's escaping me, but the player who had butted Debinha or Bia. Like it wasn't as a mistimed, I'm trying to head the ball. Like the ball was gone and she just lowered her head like a ram on the side of a mountain and rammed it into Tabia's shoulders. It's borderline violent conduct, and it's a red card in most leagues if you're going to lead with your head as a spear to another player. So, like, to see those kinds of plays happen, to see the amount of players that came away injured from that, I don't know that there's necessarily like malintent, although I have question about that one play per se. But like I don't think Emily Sams is trying to hurt Debinha. I don't think anyone else is trying to hurt. They are just going all out for stuff and not thinking with regard for each other's body. And the ref has to be the one to control them and bring them back in. And they can't let challenges like that fly in. But time and time again in the NWSL, we see games that, you'll go where if you breathe on a player, it's a foul. And then you get games like that where it's an all-out brawl and players are walking away injured. So it's disappointing to see the situation that they're in. And it should be disappointing for the league to lose so many star caliber players for a long period of time.
It especially sucks for Debinha because she got her first call up to the Brazil national team after basically being outed for being, too old. They got to start getting these young players back. She starts playing like her old self. She gets that call up. So does Marta somehow after retiring. And now she is back to square one, basically. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's extremely disappointing for Debinha. I mean, it's disappointing for every player that was injured with potentially long-term implications. No matter how long it is, if it's a week or a year, actually, it's disappointing in that regard. I always feel like, because I don't want to call out referees by name and stuff like that a lot of times, I just always feel like that referee, I just never have confidence in the games that they call. So I'm going to just kind of leave it at that. But I asked Vlaco at the availability yesterday, did you feel like it was a little bit of a too physical game, or however I phrased it? And he's like, did you watch it? Make your own judgment. He basically threw it back for us to call it that, because of course he can't say too much without getting fined and in trouble. But it was definitely disappointing in how that went.
Yep. Yeah. I even looking like this at the current in the situation, like you lose Debinha, you can't really one for one replace Debinha. You can't really one for one replace Temwa, but like you have players that are at least somewhat similar in the high pressing active forward with Nichelle Prince, with Michelle Cooper potentially coming back. She's expected to get minutes this weekend, I believe. So
Yeah.
you have ways you can cover that, and I have liked the minutes that we've seen from Haley Hopkins out there too, along the wing in terms of she's not as active as a presser, but she at least kind of gives some going forward. So I think that'll be interesting. They survived a lot of last year without Deb, and without Deb being at her best too. So then, Vanessa DiBernardo is thrown back into that playmaking number 10 role. There's a player you feel comfortable with, but it's not the same either in that aspect. So then, you're kind of like, all right, well, what are you going to see? I think the hardest part is Alana Cook, because like Kayla Sharples has done so well playing on the left-hand side of that center back pairing, that look, the Current are probably going to get Gabrielle Robinson back off the SCI list relatively soon. And I won't be surprised while Eball might get a few starts to go, I won't be surprised if, in a couple of weeks' time, we're looking at a center back pairing of Gabrielle Robinson and Kayla Sharples.
Yeah, same. I mean, and we've seen her in practice for a while now, and each time I'm out there, she looks more and more just like her normal self.
Mhm.
Gabrielle Robinson does, and Pfeiffer does too. Quite honestly, Pfeiffer actually has looked really good in the trainings that I've seen.
Mhm.
But Robinson would be the position of need if they're going to bring somebody off. If they had to put one of Cook on a seasoning and injury list,
To go
obviously.
back to, sorry,
No, go
to go
ahead.
back to Davinia, I mean, best case scenario is she's out for the summer. That's only 4 games that she's missing because there's a whole entire from like June 21st to August 1st is
Yeah.
the summer break.
I feel like I'll say this mentally, like I was in my head, I'm like, wow, she's gonna be out a really long time. But you're right, she's only gonna miss maybe a few games here or there because mentally my spring has just gone because of the baby and everything. So like I don't realize that we're like less than 2 weeks away from June here, and we're essentially into the summer. So yes, yeah, you're right. The current. I'm looking at the schedule right now. The current, like you said, have a couple more games here. 1, 2, 3, 4 games against Louisville is one, Angel City is another, Chicago and um,
Gotham.
Gotham. The Gotham and Angel City might be the tougher battles for the current. No disrespect to Racing Louisville or Chicago, but I think the current can win those games without Davinia, most likely. But you're right.
And
Got all-
Gotham should
all
also
July.
have a few games in hand because of CONCACAF Champions Cup.
Yep, correct. So
Yeah, and I agree that it's only a few games on the schedule, but it's still a number of weeks that she's gone more than it is the games because the longer you're out, but the number of weeks, the harder it is to get back into the groove. And
Mhm.
if she's injured enough that she's essentially out for a month and a half or 2 months or whatever that is, even if it's only 4 games, that's still 2 months out that you still have to get back to in shape and touch and all this stuff. And again, not knowing exactly what's wrong. So it is still a pretty significant loss for them and trying to get her back to where she was today or this week.
yeah, for sure.
What does every USAA member have in common? Family. We're one big family who supports the military community and their eligible families. And if you, your parent, or spouse served, you could join our family and save big on auto insurance. Visit USAA.com/join today to check your eligibility. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
I think you're on mute.
Workday starting to sound the same?
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
You're the perfect blend of elegance and style, and your ride should be no different. The 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid meets all your needs, from business to brunch and everywhere in between. With head-turning details like a sleek front end, plus stylish interior, and an available 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster and seamless tech integration. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more about the new 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid.
Timwa, and again, like you had said, that Timwa has players that are more like her, but at the same time, there's not anybody quite like Timwa.
No, correct. There's nobody that can do what Timwa does at the level that Timwa does it. I still think there are players that can be vertical threats, get in behind,
Yes.
and press high. That they may not do it as efficiently and at such a high level that Temwa does. That's for sure. However, there are players on this squad that could do that. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just
Don't
it
put
still
words in my
isn't-
mouth, Thad. I'm just kidding.
Oh, piss off. But it is still, there's really nobody like Timwa in the league at this point.
Yeah.
Quite like that. You have a lot of good players who can do those roles, just not in quite the same level, I'll just say. But I still think the biggest loss is Cook, because she has been the most solid center back, and they have been better since she's been there.
Yeah.
I think if you were listing one player you did not want to go down in this team, it would have probably started with Cook and then went to Temwa. And
Yeah. 1A and 1B.
yeah. And I don't know if Deb would have been number 3 or 2 if you're doing it that way, but she would have been right there.
Yep. Yeah.
So that was 3 of at least the top 4 or 5 players you did not want to go out going out. And one of them clearly long term.
Yeah.
All right. We've discussed who might come in, and Ebal will have to come in and play. You got some of the other players who can come in and fill in center back, Haley Mace, a couple of the other players that don't see a whole lot of time can also fill that role if necessary. Dabinia, like I said, Di Bernardo, we got some players that can fill in there, but it'll be interesting to see if some other players get a little more time, or if they can manage to pull Pfeiffer off the season injury list also. I don't know what they would have to do. They'll have to make a move, but
I'll have to make at least 2 corresponding moves to pull them off SEI. You would hope that Alana Cook isn't one of them, but I won't be. It wouldn't surprise me if that ended up being the case. Because I will say this too: like, you can go on SEI. There's just a minimum number of days. It doesn't mean you're truly out for the season. So they could, if they feel like she would meet the minimum amount of days that you need to be on there for their injury, but they can activate her come late in the season, come even playoff time, if it were not a truly, truly long-term injury.
Yeah.
They can do that. So I would like, and I don't, when I say I don't, I'm not saying that I think it's a season ender, but you can play the SCI list like that. There have been players on the current in the past that probably could have come off SCI and didn't in the playoffs. So I think there is there's wiggle room there. So I won't be surprised if that transaction ends up getting made at some point, which opens up an active roster spot for them to put a Gabrielle Robinson or an Alex Pfeiffer on if they need it. I would assume that since even though they're both the same injury, that Robinson would be closer to being back than Pfeiffer, just because of when the injuries happened.
Robinson's happened almost a year ago, exactly.
Yep.
Pfeiffer a few weeks later.
Yeah, Pfeiffer was like I thought a month or month and a half, like 6 weeks later, something like that, maybe. I might be wrong, but again, who knows? Maybe it takes longer for Robinson to come back. So
I'm just going off of what I've seen in practice. They have both looked like they were ready to come off, but Pfeiffer has looked maybe slightly closer. But that's a judgment call based on 20 or 30 minutes at most of watching in a week. And most weeks we don't get that.
Is that with the ball or not with the ball?
With.
Oh, there you go.
As long as the entire medical team feels good and they feel safe, because I mean, we've seen Weber come back in a game, tear ACL again. Alex Loera just tore ACL again. That was announced today. So I'm breaking the news, Sperry.
I did not know that.
I broke it at Thad earlier.
I was deep in Manchester United misery today. So,
yeah, no, I just heard that right before we started recording. When Carrie was here, we were still waiting on somebody else to show up. I'm not going to mention his name.
Who would that be? Goodness gracious.
But we were talking about that, and how much it sucks to tear because apparently she tore the same ACL. So
Ugh, that's brutal.
yeah,
Brutal. Ban ACLs. Ban knees. Not allowed.
well, one of these days they will do that. It will just be computer robots and AI and androids and something. I don't know. I was just throwing out words. All right. Current one, top of the table, injuries, possible replacements. We've discussed all that. Next game up is Chicago. Not the team that probably scares us the most, but it's still a team that they have to take seriously. What do you, knowing the injuries that we have, who do you put out there as a lineup?
There you go.
Oh. All right, center. Goalkeeper.
Carrie wants a copy off of you, is what she did.
Me.
Yeah. No,
In goal. I'm just kidding.
I always have to
Carrie
bring
Robinson
up the
in
roster.
goal.
5'2". I am 5'2".
John Bush was like all of 5'5". He made a career in MLS. You could do it.
I have a vertical of like 2.
Okay. 2 feet, 2 inches, 2 centimeters.
2.
What are we talking about? Just 2. Okay. Yeah, Lorena in goal. I'll go Haley Mace at right back. Eball and Sharples at the center back pairing. And then at left back, you can't take Izzy Rodriguez off the field right now. Midfield, you go Lowe and Hutton. At the 10, you go DiBernardo, Bia up top, and then on the wings, probably go Haley Hopkins and on the right, and Nichelle Prince on the left would be like my first instinct or preference. But the other thing they could do is maybe throw Ellie Wheeler at the right wing, Nichelle Prince at the left, or swap it. I think if Ellie Wheeler can play right back and left back, I would assume she could probably be okay doing right wing and left wing. And she would kind of give that high press activity that you want out of those wing players. So that would kind of be my guess. I don't know that Cooper is ready to start, but I wouldn't be surprised to see her play a half, maybe 30 minutes to a half. So I'm hesitant to throw her into the starting lineup, but I think like that's kind of there. The other thing that we could throw in there is maybe Lacho gets a run out there at left wing for a half, just to kind of cover. So that could be something interesting. But I think I'm just going to stick with Prince on the left, Bia up top, and Hopkins on the right, and call it that. And if Vlaco wants to surprise me, he's more than welcome to.
I was gonna throw in Marta, so
They're going to acquire her
That's
from
my-
the Orlando.
yes.
No, I'm kidding.
When they were about to announce her, Thad knew who was getting signed, and all he said was Marta, and that was it.
I think that's been the majority of the way we play that prank on Vlaco too, right? Like right as I'll give I won't say we, Thad did it. Thad goes, so I heard you signed Marta to Vlaco, and the look on Vlaco's face was like that. Why are you doing this to me?
That was kind of fun. And because we got heads up that we could go ahead and ask about it because it was going to come out later that day. So we were able to ask it on embargo, and just throwing that out there to Vlaco. I think he knew we were going to ask, but just asking it that way I did was very much fun. Back to the lineup, though, I don't expect Michelle to start either. And I would expect probably a 30-minute type of situation. But again, I don't know that. They could have more confidence in her being out there because we've seen her training for a while, not super heavy, but
well, it's the last 2 weeks. Like last week when we were out there, she was very actively involved in all phases.
Yeah.
So I felt pretty good about where she was. I was kind of surprised to see her not involved in Orlando, but at the same time, I understood it. Make sure.
Thank
she's really,
God
really
she
good to connect.
didn't, man. The way they were
might-
killing players down there
She might have gotten her ankle stomped on
accidentally.
on purple, right? That's what you were saying. On purple because they're purple. Okay,
Yes.
good job.
Any surprises you think will be in the lineup there, Carrie, besides Marta?
Well, I went back to look and see how bad Chicago was. 4 points. And so this is really just let's throw some people out there. Let's not get hurt. What if we see a Mary Long start?
I would doubt it, but I would not be shocked to see her get considerable time in the second half especially if they got a couple of goals. But yeah, I don't know.
I think this is one of those situations that because Chicago is just so down bad that we could see just the weirdest lineup.
And we
You
might.
know, we might. The NWSL is also one of those leagues, though, that you never know what's going to freaking happen. So, look at Utah going in and getting a 3-3 draw in Washington over the weekend. So, I think they play it mostly straight up. They might be willing to put in a wrinkle or two, maybe play Haley Mace at center back or something goofy, or
Yeah.
keep the back five. Who knows? So,
Chicago has 5 goals and 19 goals against.
yikes.
That is just about opposite what we have.
Well, it should be a good game for Mary Long to get her first goal. Right? Good chance. Let's see.
Oh boy.
They did. I mean, their one win was on the road. 2-1 win at Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Their one draw was away. So apparently they're just really terrible at home.
Which
That's why
is
that's why they're
probably
changing
good.
homes now.
It's probably good for them to be at home
Change-
and
They're changing homes.
Well, they're playing a game against Orlando at Northwestern.
Northwestern.
Thank you. I always get Maryville confused. Which one is Northwestern? It's not even in the Northwest. Let me just say that. But then there's rumors that maybe they make the switch. And this is just let's see how it goes.
A trial run.
Yes.
They kick the tires.
This is literally, I think it's turf. So yes, the tire rubber pellet feeling on the field. Okay. Anyways, it's
They're gonna-
interesting. I just don't know, like Chicagoans, like knowing Chicagoans, they're gonna be like, "Oh, you're playing in Evanston." I mean, like that's for them. That might as well, like, it's better than going all the way out to the great area of Bridgeview, which is practically like Springfield, Illinois, to most of them in terms of distance. Might as well be, but yeah, it's like Evanston is not like a place where Chicagoans are like, yeah, let's go. Like that sounds awesome. Yeah, I don't. It'll be interesting if they try and make that move long term. However, I don't. It sure gets them in the city, but
Do you think
Honestly,
Pope
though, they
Leo
have
will
no
be
good
watching?
answers.
what?
I said, do you think Pope Leo will be watching?
He'll be watching the Sox. He'll be watching the Sox with a glass of Malort, and he'll be good, and an Italian beef sandwich.
Italian beef sandwich in Rome.
I know.
You don't think he's
Uh,
introduced them to deep dish yet?
This is pizza, guys. The sauce is on top. That's come on now.
Italians might excommunicate him.
How have we gone to the Pope? That's what I want to know. At a women's soccer podcast.
Chicago, Evansville, Evanstown, whatever it's called. Northwest
that-
Missouri States.
Evanston, yeah.
There is no good answer up there for them to have a stadium, though, or a place to play. It seems like there's no right answer in Chicago. Chicago just shouldn't have soccer. Actually, they just should not have it. It should just remain football and baseball and I guess basketball and hockey, but soccer should just skip over Chicago. But it's just no good answers. All right, so you got any predictions on the game? 3-0? I'm gonna go 3-0.
I'll go 2-0.
Summer's here, and you can now get almost anything you need for your sunny days delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a well-groomed lawn delivered, but you can get a chicken parmesan delivered. A cabana? That's a no. But a banana? That's a yes. A nice tan? Sorry, nope. But a box fan? Happily, yes. A day of sunshine? No. A box of fine wines? Yes. Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
Out here, there's no one way of doing things. No unwritten rules. And no shortage of adventure. Because out here, the only requirement is having fun. Bank of America invites kids 6 to 18 to golf with us. For a limited time, sign them up for a free 1-year membership, giving them access to discounted tee times at thousands of courses. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/golf with us. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America. Restrictions apply. See BofA.com/golf with us for complete details. Copyright 2025 Bank of America Corporation.
Llegaron los nuevos McCrispy Strips, listos para aventurarse en la mezcla de mayo ketchup, la barbecue que quedó en el fondo de la cajita, Hot Fudge Sundae y en la nueva Creamy Chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Los nuevos McCrispy Strips, ahora en McDonald's. Para pa pa pa.
Now I have to think of a new one because I was gonna go 2-0. I'll go 4-1.
You can repeat. You don't have to
No.
be different.
I can't.
She has to be different.
I mean, you could have been different as in saying that Haley Mace gets a brace.
Gen Z is like the ultimate individualists that they have to be different.
That would tell me a lot about my daughter. Tell me that. You know, this would be smart to do. Yep, I know that. Are you going to do it? Nope. I just figured it was stubbornness from me, which is probably at least a factor in there. So
It's a good factor. I assume family genetic makeups essentially do eventually play a role.
You know, you should do X. Okay, I'll do Y. Thank you.
Never smarter, just harder.
Oh, that sounds like so many of my friends. Okay. Like that soccer pod, back to that for a second. Call-ups, national team. Nichelle Prince, biggest
Nichelle
news
Prince.
story of the day. Nichelle Prince called up to Canada.
Of today, correct.
Dabinia called up to Brazil, but we know that's probably not going to happen now.
No, I think.
Is there
I
any
think
other big
she's-
call-ups?
She's being replaced by Ludmila from Chicago. That's the big change. Okay, I'm sorry. We can't keep doing this to Lo. You can't disrespect Lo like this. Come on now.
We were getting to her.
I was setting up for you to do something, man. I'm like,
He put the sunglasses on
I did.
I made the pass and he didn't even see it.
and stopped listening once the sunglasses went on.
Yeah, pretty much. They come with noise canceling headphones that go on underneath the headphones I'm currently wearing. Anyways, yeah, Lola Bonta called into the national team. I feel bad for her in a way because everyone's like, wow, she'd be like the oldest player ever to make their national team debut. And oh, we really need some like veteran depth, and everyone's making a big deal out of it because she's quote old. Like I feel bad for her because in reality, like 32 is not bad. And the way that she's playing at 32 is phenomenal. But ultimately, a player that very much deserves the call up, and I'm glad to see it.
Do you feel like they just needed babysitting?
No, no. Half the babies that aren't even born yet from that team that are pregnant with Mal Swanson and Sophia Wilson and
Well, I was just meaning Claire Hutton.
She says she made a joke about having to watch her kids in Cooper
Yes.
and Hutton, and they said you have kids.
Well, she has done the pregnant celebration after a goal, even though it wasn't one.
Did you see there was a fan that brought a sign on Mother's Day that said Happy First Mother's Day to Lo and her new dog because of that?
I did not see that.
It comes with the Low Mama name.
Mm-hmm. It is. No, I really though, very well
Yeah.
deserved for Labonta, and I think she fits kind of. I I don't. She's not necessarily like the veteran, calm it down in the midfield type of a player for sure, but she is a player that just brings so much leadership on the field,
Yes.
aggressiveness, and very like that ball hunting mentality. She can play in like I'm just thinking of like the passes over the top that she'll lift into like Alyssa Thompson or Kat Macario or something like that. Like that'll be awesome if she gets an opportunity on the field, and she should. I think I won't be surprised if Emma Hayes gets her in camp and it's like, dang, I've got a really good player on my hands. I'm gonna play her because she is a really freaking good midfielder.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if she gets in at least one of those 2 games that she's in camp for.
Yeah.
I did put in a credential for one of them, so hopefully I'll
There you
get
go.
lucky and she'll be in one of those.
Where
But I'm-
where are they at these
Wait,
friendlies?
I got this. So the first one is against China in Minnesota, and then the second one. So if okay, I'll just go for it. The second one is against Jamaica in St. Louis. Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to build up to this. The St. Louis game is Becky Sauerbund's retirement. If Emma Hayes follows her inaugural match, don't play them, and then play them in the second match, we could see Labonta's debut and Becky's Sauerbund's retirement, and FCKC lives on.
That's good.
Thank you.
It was a really good attempt. There was a little fumble in there, though, I have to say. So
I'm sorry.
it's okay. You
I
did
just got
better
too
than
ex-
I would.
I got too excited.
Maybe I should have put in for the St. Louis one now that you said that.
When is the game against St. Louis?
Tuesday,
June 3rd?
June 3rd.
Oh, it's on my birthday. Yeah, I'm not going. Sorry. Dang it.
Wow.
Well, you had to put in a credential request by today, actually.
For two Tuesdays ago, yeah, probably. Although
For both of them.
I'll say I have missed the deadline for a credential before because I thought I put it in and then did not, and that quickly got rectified. But
You're special.
I got lucky. They could have said no.
I chose St. Paul, Minnesota, the game up there versus the one in St. Louis because I've been to St. Louis recently, and
Didn't want to go back.
no, and B, the drive to St. Paul involves going through Des Moines, and we stop for Fong's Pizza, either on the way up or on the way back. And C, we have some family. My wife has some family in Minneapolis area, so she could visit them. And D, it's a day game. Well, it's a 4:30 game, so naturally Schleidt. So that was my logic for going there. Because I wasn't going to do both.
You don't want to go back to St. Louis?
Not. No. I mean,
That's not the number one place that you're so excited to go visit every weekend.
I still have some family there, and I went to the sporting game there and didn't tell my family I was there. So that tells you a lot, probably. All right. So anyway, congrats. Yes, great call up for Lowe. Very well deserved. I'm surprised she didn't get at least some kind of look in past, but it's hard to break into that team. So much talent, and there's possibly some injuries and stuff that got her this chance, but hopefully she goes in, and I'm not going to say she's going to be long-term mini caps for the U.S. women's national team, but hopefully she does get some.
Yep.
Actually, I think one of the bigger surprises for me was Cooper, just because she hasn't played yet coming back.
Yeah. But hey, that's what it is.
Yeah, that bodes well that they think she's back if she can come in to the national team camp and be available for those games. But that's not always the case either. Sometimes they just bring them in.
Yep.
Emma Hayes did mention that her coming to camp is also kind of still depending on if she can play some minutes in the current game.
Yep.
So I guess technically she would be invited still, but suited up, probably not.
Yeah, there's very much that possibility, and they do that fairly often, bring in players just to keep them in the camp and in the vibe and practicing, even if they're not going to play minutes. So
Yeah.
I'm not
I think when Crystal Dunn was trying to return a couple of years ago, she was in camp here. So
They do often bring players in as an invitee, but not as a roster player.
yeah.
So the fact that she is a roster player does make me believe that they at least think she can be playing. So
Yeah.
all right. Speaking
sure.
of China, China is in town apparently in Kansas City training in preparation for the US game.
Oh.
And I don't know why they picked Kansas City over going to Minnesota to train, since that's where they're playing. But maybe this was already originally the plan, because originally they were supposed to do both games against the US, the Minneapolis one and the St. Louis one. But for some reason they backed out, and so they invited Jamaica to come in for that game in St. Louis. So maybe this was originally their base camp, and they just didn't change it after they backed out of the one game. But apparently the current two are going to have a scrimmage or two with them. And that was, I know Carrie brought it to my attention from a tweet that she found. And when I asked about it, they were like, well, we're not talking about that. And it's closed and behind closed doors, and we don't talk about those things.
I had a friend who listens to the pod. Shout out her. She was looking at the KC Current 2 starting 11 from the Minnesota Aurora game. And we're just looking up all the colleges that each player goes to and just kind of the bios. And one of the colleges already had that she played against China for KC Current 2, and then did some digging, and that's how they found it. So
investigative journalism.
Yes. Very, very good to your friend who brought that to your attention. It's interesting that they already had that in there, because they weren't even in town yet at that point, were they?
Oh, I think they had just arrived,
Yeah.
if
So
anything.
yeah, this is kind of interesting. You would already have that in your bio, but I remember last year, or year before, a player was like, yeah, I'm playing for the KC Current too. And nobody even knew there was no, I'm playing for KC Current. And she was like a college kid who couldn't play for the Current because they still had draft and all that kind of stuff. And it was like, yeah, she never did play for the Current. So she was on the Current 2 team that they would do the WPSL before they even knew that we had a WPSL team back then. So anyway, that will be interesting when we have an NWSL 2 team. KC Current 2. Yes.
There still isn't a roster for the KC Current 2 team that played Minnesota. There's just that picture of the starting 11.
Yeah.
So that's all we got to work with.
Did they not announce them when they made subs? Because they made like 8 subs at halftime, I was told.
I didn't listen. I didn't really either pay attention as well. I just saw that picture of the starting 11 listed out. So that's what I went based off when I was curious to see if they were KC natives or just people picked out. And it's a mix of both.
Yeah. Definitely some of KC natives. I know that from a couple of the names. Yeah, and then what'll be very interesting too is who's on the KC Current 2 TST team.
Oh, yeah.
You looked confused for a second.
No, well, the thing is, are they just gonna put college players and say go for it? Or are they gonna, I guess no one knows.
No, but they'll have to
Because that
have
would
a
be
roster in like
crazy.
10 days.
Yeah. I know we play Wrexham. That's all I know.
I was wondering if they would bring in some old veterans to do it too, but
They're all
Who knows?
taken by North Carolina's team and the old US team, whatever they're called.
The old U.S. team.
The old US team. Well, they have. Oh, it's just called US Women. Apologies.
But even that, they brought in some young players last year when they did it. So they had some college players in there. Is Sperry still awake?
I am. I just have nothing. I can't. I have nothing to add to KC Current 2.
Okay, just checking. That doesn't always stop you. But I just wanted to make sure you're still awake over there, man.
Oh, I'm alive.
All right. Other than the KC Current 2, which hopefully we'll get some more information on for the TST team at least, because the KC Current 2 is playing an exhibition schedule of just 3 games. The first one against Minnesota Aurora. I forget where the next 2 are, but none of them are here. I was actually surprised the other one was even televised or streamed, rather. Any last things that we need to bring up?
No.
Nope.
It's like the little auto, like the voice soundboard. No.
We'll have to try to set one up for you.
That would be fun.
It's
Just
like it's a
sound
Mike
clips.
Stats, but it's a Sperino.
No.
I do have sound effects I can add, but
It's also like it's like the episode of Rick and Morty where Rick's or Morty's dad finally discovers the power of saying no and just no the whole time. The whole episode is him saying no.
Have you discovered that as a dad yet?
No. No. Okay.
I'm looking at some of these TST names, and they're a lot more fun than just KC Current 2. There's like the Drunken Monkeys, Process FC, Speedy Turtles. Let's rename KC Current to the Drunken Current.
All right. Before I get myself into any more trouble with saying things, we should probably wrap up. And any last words, Carrie? Daniel?
No.
Thad?
No.
No.
Okay, there you go. Sorry.
We're out.
Sorry, the soundboard's broken.